Time for rolling.
The right targets. That is one trade. T-Tigers is still pretty healthy. Tries to jump in. He finds one. This is a big turnaround for Liberation X. They might get the third. They might find an ace here onto Lost Boytov. Surrey Strike is not enough. The Godwin goes down. He might go for Donna Clips. He's gonna get one. He's gonna get two. Lost Boytov!
Lost Boytov, he does it. He gets the 2 versus 1 turnaround under the turret.
He lives
This man is a god.
What's up, Left?
5v5.
5v5 is what's up.
Did you win?
Yeah, I won.
Glad
Nice.
someone's winning out there on 5v5. Our tier right now is a little more people just running around and dying. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
We had a Varia want to go top, and then a Glaive went mid, but then the Glaive decided to jungle, so our Akashka try to do mid every once in a while. So basically it was just Crude on a Captain Arden trying to hold down mid lane.
Ouch.
Yeah, it was entertaining, to say the least.
I've been getting a lot of like really good matchmaking. Like every time I've queued, I've been with Challenger and VG8 players so far.
Oh man.
But yeah, it's really fun. The only bad thing is though, I still can't figure out how to use the teleport boots.
Really?
I haven't tried them yet.
Like I buy them and then I click to activate them. But like, how do you teleport to something that's all the way across the map?
So I think you have to like scroll over there. You're like the free.
Yeah,
cam.
I do that and then
Okay.
I touch the thing and it doesn't work.
Huh. I think I've only done it successfully like on my own scout cam. I've never tried it on minions or anything before.
I've been trying to do it on allies and minions. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah, there's some other things that I think the one thing that right now is like when you get into a game and you're like everyone's locking in heroes, people sometimes just like wait way too long. The time's not very long.
Oh yeah, people keep dodging.
Yeah, it's because they don't even know it though.
Yeah.
Because there's like 5 people trying to decide where to go, and everyone's like, there's no communication, so you're just like waiting. But there's like no time to like truly solve who's going where.
Yep.
So hopefully they make that a little longer. Hey, how's it going? Real quick before we get into today's episode, I just want to tell you about a few sponsors and opportunities for you guys to support the show. For our sponsors, Mobile eSports. Obviously, I talked about them a lot. They are a wonderful company that deals with all things mobile gaming. They are gaming on a whole new level. They will be doing more and more stuff heading into 2018 with Vainglory and Vainglory community events. 5v5 did just finally drop for 2.12 in early access. So it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward. I'm so excited to continue working on things with them. We do have our Patreon page that is launched. Of course, if you, again, feel like you like the show enough and you'd like to support us, then go over there and you can do some donations and there's some perks. Definitely check out the page. It will be in the show notes, Patreon page /TFR eSports. And then we also have some of our art up on Redbubble. I don't know if people have heard of that before, but you can order things like stickers and phone cases and coffee mugs and that kind of stuff, and we do get some of the percentage. So it is nice to be able to maybe get a sticker of ours. If you are going to San Francisco, my brother Crude and I will be there, so you can find us, and we have some stickers to hand out. We don't know how many we'll give out and how quickly, so definitely try to find us early on. But I think that is all we have this episode. We will be having LeftSpectrs on, Vainglory and Nova Coach. He's going to break down 2.12 with us. We're going to go through every single hero change, talk about 3v3 versus 5v5 and who's strong, who's not, what's broken, what's not broken, and I don't really think anything's broken yet. We'll have to see. It's really early, but we're going to get into this episode, do a little introduction, and then the episode will start up. I hope you guys enjoy it. Cheers.
Welcome to Time for Rolling Esports, the weekly podcast that brings you Vainglory Esports. From predictions to recaps and analysis, we present to you the best in professional Vainglory. Now here's your hosts, Endless and Crude. It's
Time for Rolling.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? And welcome to Time for Rolling Esports, episode 80. We are on the big 80. We have a crazy episode today. A lot has happened already this week, and it's only while we're recording it is Monday. Vainglory decided to drop 2.12 on us, and we have a lot to talk about. So we kind of rearranged our schedule for this week. We are bringing Left on to give us a breakdown of heroes and the item changes. I'm joined, as always, with Crude Sloth. How's it going?
It's going fantastic. 2.12's out. I'm super hyped.
Yes, 5v5 is now a reality. Left, obviously, coach from Nova. How's it going, man?
It's going really well. 5v5 is amazing, and yeah, it's just really, really, really fun, and I'm having such a good time with it.
Yeah, it's fun so far. People haven't exploited anything yet. We are on day one. We'll have to see when the first kind of like broken thing is found, and then I saw an interesting tweet from the copycat. He's obviously a big PvE person, but he was like, more matches have probably been played today than they've played on PvE for the last like however long they've been playing. So there's gonna be a lot of things being found just because of the amount of matches and that are being played currently. So he was like,
To be fair, there already is something broken that we found, though.
"What's that?"
It's Crystal Vox, man.
Oh well.
So
Crystal Vox is
I
broken.
just destroyed a CP Vox as Samuel, so I don't know.
Oh, see, Left's got all the behind the
The
scenes.
person he was playing was probably just bad.
I mean, he didn't have any defense, but
Oh, okay.
we won the game against a CP Vox, and we didn't have one. So
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because currently, obviously, there's no rank, so you are blind going into matches. So there are decent chances that you could just draft into a terrible team, and it's nothing you can really deal with.
yeah, that's gonna happen a lot during the early access.
Yeah, we could. If basically, obviously, if rank comes in 3.0, then we have probably about 2 to 3 weeks on with just a blind pick. So that'll be interesting to see how these next couple of weeks goes. And I'm sure Nivmitz and the rest of the balance team, it'll be interesting to see what people say. I've been hearing they did an amazing job, and I haven't played long enough to find anything too crazy. So it'll be interesting to see. But today, our goal is to try and run through every single one of these hero changes as much as possible without being 5 hour long podcast. We're going to really just try to go through the major things, some of the stuff that we may think may be really strong or some stuff that's really going to affect 3v3. So we're just going to walk that through. That was Left. He's going to give us his expert analysis. And then the real stuff, probably even more that I really want Left to talk about, is item changes and how some of these item changes will be looking, I guess, towards the future of 5v5 and the rest of competitive. But who really knows what will even change by the time competitive starts? Probably a lot. So literally, if we start from the top, I know Left, the big thing, I guess, that's kind of across the board is the range and movement speed changes.
Yeah, basically everybody is either getting a range change, a movement speed change, or both. In the case of like melee / ranged heroes like Rhyme. So
Did you feel, okay, you've played, did you feel that it feels slow while you're out there? Because I have seen some tweets that people are like, it feels like my hero is slow compared to normal.
I personally haven't felt slow, but I've been buying boots first item with Book of Eulogies every time I lane.
Mhm.
So that just might be a byproduct of me buying boots first. It also might be people not buying boots and then trying to go the wrong way up the river. But it also could just be that the map is like 5 times as big as the Halcyon Fold now, so they just feel slower.
Right. I think that's what it is, just because I'm like, okay, I normally can get back to the lane by this time. And then if I'm trying to get somewhere, if I have like tier 1 boots, I'm just like, I feel like this is taking forever to get where I want to go. But it's probably just because the map is bigger.
Yep, and it's even better because they reduce the cost of tier 2 boots.
Yeah. I feel like boots are going to be super important throughout 5v5. You're going to need them to get around quick enough. So hero-wise, Crude, why don't you at least not necessarily read, but go through the first couple and let Left decide if it's important or not.
All right. So first up, you got Adagio. Basically, it's just for Adagio, it's basically just his movement and his range have been increased. Do you see anything on there left you want to talk about for Adagio?
So the range on Gift of Fire is, I mean, it makes sense. It's a good change because everyone's going to be more spread out on a bigger map with more heroes. So I think that was a good change. And then his Verse of Judgment, he's going to get more fortified health when he's casting that, simply because more heroes are going to be trying to stop him from casting that while he's casting it.
Right.
So those changes are pretty straightforward, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. So Alpha. Now I think this one's a little bit bigger. Like they had talked about in his infinite reboot, like, his ultimate, and when you have 3v3, you have a chance of, getting through that and getting rebooted a little bit better. But 5v5, they were experiencing that it was just 5 players just were just blowing up Alpha in his reboot. So they've kind of addressed that a little bit, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think it's a good change. They removed the energy recharge ratio from her reboot sequence, and so you can no longer change the amount of time that you reboot as Alpha, whether that's by buying cooldown speed or buying energy recharge. So it's just a flat 3.5 seconds now. But they also increased the health at all levels from 450 to 2250 to 500 to 2800, which means it's just to compensate for the fact that instead of 3 people trying to get you out of reboot, there are probably going to be 5. So yeah, I think it should help Alpha. I've seen a few Alphas today doing very well, so I think it's a good change.
All right, going into next one, Arden. So obviously captains are going to be pretty important in 5v5. I would say just as important or even more because there's so many more people to take care of. And I think that's something they're looking at when it comes to Ardens like Vanguards. I mean, the range is increased, the cooldown is increased. I guess Blood for Blood, whatever. I guess they have an increased range. And then Gauntlet, the cooldown is increased. So the Gauntlet will be not as up as often.
Yeah, I think these changes for Arden, they go along kind of the same vein as the changes to Adagio. Like everything is going to be more spread out, so you got to increase his range a little bit just so that he can provide some utility and not feel like he's stuck in team fights, can't get to his teammate. And I also feel like this might be like a case for building cooldown on Arden once you get like that Crucible and Fountain and stuff. That might be pretty fun to try.
Yeah, I think what the captains build in what order will be interesting to see. I've seen some people say like upgraded cameras are most important before like a second tier, and I guess we can talk about that when we get to more of the item changes. What your opinions are when it comes to what items are most important. Baptiste, though, next. Obviously, Fearsome Shade is something that I really was looking forward to in 5v5. With a clockwork, you could throw that Fearsome Shade out a lot. There's a lot of people to fear into walls and whatnot. So basically, Fearsome Shade has been changed. Do you think it's really going to affect Baptiste? He can still buy an Echo and still have a clockwork.
Yeah, so the changes to Fearsome Shade, it's not going to really do anything to roam Batiste with an Echo. But what it is going to stop is that when you were playing Batiste in 2.11 and 3v3, you max out Fearsome Shade and you have a clockwork. If you use Fearsome Shade relatively early in the fight, you'll probably have it again just through the cooldown reduction on using your bad mojos. And since obviously there's going to be a lot more people to fear in 5v5, they don't want that to be coming out twice from a Crystal Batiste that doesn't have an Echo, because that's just too much impact from Batiste.
Right. All right. So next up, we got Baron. We got two things I would say that affect Baron as far as splash damage, and then I think the big one with the ion cannon. The ion cannon is now global for 3v3 and 5v5 anywhere on the map. So
yeah, the ion cannon being global, I think they should have done that from the beginning, to be honest. It
Yeah.
always felt really awkward to use at lower levels. as Baron, even on 3v3. And then so his basic attacks, they reduce the splash damage and increase the attack speed. I think this means that they want to move Weapon Baron more into just being a single target hero. Obviously, since in 5v5 there's 5 people, there's going to be so many more people grouped up to get like annihilated by Baron splash damage.
Yeah.
So obviously they want to keep that part of his perk, but they don't want to make him absolutely busted, and he would have been if they would have kept him like that, since he wasn't 3v3.
Right. Next up, we got Blackfeather. He took a pretty big change as well. He was, they said early on in his 5v5 testing that he was just destroying. So they had to change some stuff with the Feint of Heart, the On Point, and the Rose of Fence. All 3 of those got some changes. I don't know if you want to talk about those a little bit.
Yeah, so I woke up this morning and started reading the patch notes, and I realized that everybody on Reddit and the community forums and Twitter was crying salty tears about Blackfeather's changes. Like, I woke up and went on the community forums, and there was a thread at the top that was literally called "You Can't Balance Faux Shizzle," and it was some guy. He wrote like one sentence about why would you kill Blackfeather? Nivmet sucks. Fire him.
Oh god.
And that was it. So
the trolls.
What happened in PvE, since I was part of the PvE testing, what was happening in PvE with Blackfeather and why they made these changes was, like, I'm going to be saying this so many times, but since there's more heroes in 5v5, he was using his Rose Offensive with a breaking point to just cut through like 3, 4, 5 people at a time with his ultimate, and that was allowing him to stack breaking point way faster than he should have. So
jeez.
What he would do is he would just Rose Offensive through the team once, Rose Offensive the other way. He'd have 20 breaking point stacks, and then he would just Feint of Heart and kill somebody instantly. So that's why they had to make these changes to Blackfeather. And I think Nivmet playing BF on the dev stream today was evidence enough that he's still in a perfectly okay place.
Yeah.
So
I played him and I liked him.
Yeah, well, you played Crystal, right?
Yeah, I did play Crystal. I didn't play Weapon Power, but yeah, I still because I wanted to try. CP Blackfeather was pretty good in 2.11, so I wanted to see how it was in 2.12, and not bad.
Because his on point no longer slows targets when hit. I thought that was interesting, and I don't know completely why they added that in. Maybe just because he was able to stick on targets too easily.
Yeah, he's always been like a really sticky chasing hero. They may have just wanted to remove that completely and make sure he's just using his dashes to stick to heroes, but
yeah.
That change kind of confused me too. But yeah, we're gonna have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, we'll see if he's still viable. I'm sure he's not going to completely die.
He's one of those heroes that no matter what they do to him is always going to be playable, kind of like Vox.
Yeah, exactly. Catherine's next, of course. It's kind of like Baptiste, I feel like. Ultimate, if you could echo the ultimate, use a blast trimmer twice, you would really silence 5 people for a very long time. So, they did, reduce the silence duration a little bit. They also mess with Merciless Pursuit, Storm Guard. They really mess with everything. I don't know if it's really just the ultimate that's the biggest change in this case.
I think the best change here is what they did is Storm Guard. So in the PvE testing, what was happening was, since instead of 3 people, you have 5 people focusing on Kath's shield, it would be gone instantly, and she would just die.
Mm-hmm.
So they reduced the threshold for activating the shield as far as damage goes, and then they made it last a little bit longer every time she gets hit. So those are good changes that are going to help the bubble, which has been neglected for a very long time. And then for Blast Tremor, I find that change really interesting because it actually may provide incentive for not maxing Blast Tremor and just going with the Merciless Pursuit in the bubble, because before you would get an extra 0.3 seconds of silence. Now you only get 0.1 seconds of silence. And yeah. And even if you get an echo, the cooldown doesn't really matter anyways.
Yeah, Echo will be interesting to see how many captains build an Echo as their as an item. The next hero, I'm pretty interested about this one just because of how this will relate to 3v3 still. I mean, Okay, so we have the Heliogenesis. You know, their range is already pretty long on the Heliogenesis, especially when it's upgraded on level 8. But now it's even farther. I mean, it's slight, but even a slight range increase, I feel like will be important. Obviously, Celeste. There's a lot going on in team fights. Celeste is want to be as far away as possible. I mean, do you think the range increase is definitely crucial for 5v5, and do you think that's gonna make Celeste even more broken in 3v3?
I think that Celeste with these changes is probably one of those heroes that they scratched their heads about for like a week straight and then realized that they had to take one game mode over the other.
Yeah.
And they're gonna have to choose 5v5 there. It's the future of their esports and everything. So I do think with the range increases, she's gonna be overwhelming in 3v3, but I also can't figure out any way for them to have avoided that.
Yeah. I definitely think that's important.
All right, next up we got the mighty Churnwalker. We saw what he could do in 3v3, obviously in 5v5. The amount of health regen he would be able to get would have been ridiculous if he had all 5 enemies hooked up and dealing damage. So, opinions on Churnwalker left.
So you said it a second ago, the futility of life thing. With more heroes on the field, that just has to be tuned down because you're going to be getting health from more sources than you did on the Halcyon Fold. So it only makes sense that you would tune down the healing and the damage. But anyways, what I think is really interesting is the speed increase on Hook and Chain. So the interesting thing about Churnwalker is that like his win rate curve as you went up in Elo, like was really high. So like he had a really high win rate and was like a ban or pick captain in tier 10. But if you go down to like tier 3, it was either he was never picked or the person picking him could not land a single chain ever and their team would lose.
AKA me.
So I think the speed change for Hook and Chain is going to help smooth that curve out a little bit.
I
Gotcha.
am interested though. Like, think about having 5 people hooked. Like, is that really gonna be completely possible? I just feel like I did just play a game of Churnwalker, and it was hard to like be in the middle of all 5 of the enemies without getting chunked down immediately and having all.
Yeah.
You know, it's difficult. I feel like.
Another way to think about it would be, do you want to spend time hooking and chaining 5 people when somebody might be diving your carry and you got to focus on fountaining them?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Lots of things are going to be going on.
And I think that's sorry, Crude, but I think that's the main.
No, you're good.
I think that's the main thing that us lower tier players struggle with is because we watch professionals play and like, oh, you know, you always got to be throwing out your hook and chain, but sometimes you get so focused on I need to land my hook. Like there's 5 of them, they're always running around. Like some of them are breaking your chain. Like it's almost pointless to stress about that and maybe just focus on your team instead of hooking the enemy team.
Yeah, that sort of thing happens to me with Lorelei. Like I get so focused on putting the pools down, I forget to use my actives.
I was just gonna say, don't challenge Gabe Vizzle or any of those professional captains to
not
they'll,
get a
they'll do
5.
it. They'll get all 5 and reflex block and fountain. Yeah, they won't even miss a beat.
Oh yeah, Gabe posted a video on Twitter earlier today of him getting a pentakill with CP Vox.
Yeah.
We'll
I
talk
saw
about
that.
him later.
Earlier today, I got a pentakill with Weapon Idris,
Ooh.
which we can talk about later because Weapon Idris is like really fun now.
So, all right. Next up on our list here, we got Flicker. I have one simple question left: will Flicker be viable in 5v5? Because in 3v3, he's definitely been one of the lower priority captains. So, is this his time?
Flicker will be viable in 5v5. I think he'll be more than viable. He's been really, really, really annoying to play against in PvE testing, and I think a lot of people are going to pick him up just because of the vision utility he brings. Like, anything that has to do with vision is so much more important now, and the strength that Flicker brings to your team with that, like, you can run him as a support, you can run him as a utility crystal jungler, so much utility on Flicker.
The other big thing with Mooncloak, like all heroes affected by Mooncloak stealth will have true sight while stealth. I think that's interesting, right? That
I actually don't know exactly what true sight means. I have I don't know for sure.
So I think I listened to the dev stream and they said True sight is where when everyone is in the cloak, you can see like all the cams. You can see the cams. You can see Taka. You can see a Kestrel. Like, you basically have all vision
Okay.
everywhere. So
That's
you
what I
can
thought it was, but I wasn't sure.
you can like avoid a cam and not, if you're trying to get a sneaky rotation off while you're invisible, you can avoid where their cameras are basically.
Like
That's
of the
pretty
entire
amazing.
map?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Like, if they had given Flicker that in 3v3, he probably would have been pretty meta.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Okay.
All right, well, captains, we do have a lot of captain changes that I think are important. Next one is Fortress. I'll be interested to see how many times Fortress is played as a captain going forward, but there are some decent changes. Obviously, the 5, attack from the pack are going to be the 5 wolves coming out. That's, known. The wolf base health is increased, so they will last a little longer. Then we have just, other little changes with Fortress. Do you still think we're going to have like a Cloud9 type comp where you run this CP, like a Aftershock, kind of low damage, high utility Fortress?
Yeah, that's gonna still be a very real thing. Especially because they increased the slow on Law of the Claw and yeah. So CP Fortress and Rome Fortress, I guess, they're both enabling heroes, which means that they're going to let you get ganks faster and convert on mistakes faster. So I guess in the pro scene, unless they just completely kill him, Fortress is never not going to be at least a niche pick.
Okay, fair enough. Glaive. Okay, so I got a personal beef right now with Glaive just because the people that have been playing them are playing him wrong. The afterburns, obviously, I feel like have changed on how you play afterburns. I think we've discussed it before on the podcast, but people need to stop afterburning into 5 members of the enemy team when your team's not there. Anyways, so Afterburn now stuns at the start of the knockback instead of the end. Maybe a slight change is going to, it's going to be different on how it feels when it comes to reflex. Stun durations increase. Glaive, do you got anything specific about Glaive that you like or dislike so far for 5v5?
Glaive has been. I mean, I've only played against Glaive so far. I haven't played as him yet, but he seems pretty similar to how you would play against him in 3v3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I usually predict reflex blocking afterburn. Like, as soon as he does it, I reflex block. Sometimes he's really good and he waits for the block to wear off, and most of the time he's not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they just did some general range and speed things for Glaive like they did to everybody else, and looks like that actually gave him more weapon power scaling, which is interesting. What I'm not actually sure what that says. It just says general weapon power scaling. Is that per level, or it doesn't say per level? It just says general weapon power scaling increase from 6.7 to 7.9. I have no idea what that means.
I don't either. Just something general category, just overall.
It may just be like how much he gets per level, since it looks like they reduced his base weapon.
Okay.
I think that would make the most sense, to be honest, but
yeah.
All right. Well, next up we got another captain, Grace. For me at least, it looks just like mainly the range is the issue. They did decrease her weapon ratio from 20 to 15. What do you think about Grace?
Grace is really fun in 5v5. On PvE, I played a lot of Weapon Grace in top lane. She has a lot of utility now that she can provide 5 benediction shields at the same, or 4 benediction shields at the same time to her allies. So yeah. Also they made it so that the bonus damage on her benediction attack is now the same bonus that she gets for her empowered basic attacks when she stands in the same place. So I think that Grace is going to be a really good roam or laner pick in 5v5.
Ooh, lane.
Though, like, shouldn't they maybe it would be too OP if they increased it like another use, because now you have 5 players instead of 3?
Whoa.
I'm
I'm
not
just saying.
actually. That's an interesting thought, but they may have not increased Divine Intervention's heal or given it a second charge because of how prevalent in the recent 3v3 meta it's been that like you just pick 2 bruisers and then put Grace on there with an echo and you win.
Yeah, I think that's the
That's
issue.
much of what
You would
it's
have 4.
been in 3v3 in like tier 10
Right.
and above. People just got tired of that, and I guess Nivmet did not want Grace to be that strong as a support anymore.
It's just going to be even more crucial for the captain to truly be paying attention to all 4 team members and figuring out, who she wants to heal and then when to hit the echo and heal the next person. Because if you may have 2 squishy people you have to pay attention to now, it's definitely going to be a lot harder for
Yeah.
captains.
All right, so next up we got Grumpjaw, and as we all know, Grumpjaw hasn't been used a whole lot here recently with 3v3, so they're obviously trying to get him to be a little bit more used in 5v5. Any opinions on Grumpjaw, on what you think, if he'll be more used, less used?
I agree with what Nivmet said. Grumpjaw has been sad for a long time. His win rate has been like the bottom in North America for the longest time now. And when I was on my stream, I was always take it upon myself to raise Grumpjaw's win rate in NA ranked. But I think these changes, they're not necessarily like 5v5 changes, as they are just helping Grumpjaw get better.
Yeah.
Like you got more slow on Grumpy, movement speed buff, lower cooldown on Hangry, and probably a 5v5 type change is what they did to his Stuffed. They were like, well, people keep stunning Grumpjaw in 3v3, so there's going to be even more people stunning him in 5v5. So what can we do? I guess you just can't stop Grumpjaw from eating people anymore.
Yep.
Ooh, I think it's me, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Come on, pay attention, Endless.
All right, my bad. Gwen. Okay, so Gwen is interesting because we haven't seen weapon power as much. We saw I would say some Crystal Gwen, and it was viable. We saw Best Shock play Crystal Gwen the very first 5v5 match at Worlds. I personally like weapon power more just because I feel like as a Crystal Path, I use my buckshot and then stand there and wait for it to come back up. But there was a lot of changes. So Gwen, I feel like they're trying to get the weapon ratio back more into play. Maybe have a weapon power Gwen, and we could see a one trick Best Chuck Gwen return.
Yeah, the changes to weapon power Gwen, I think they did a lot more to make her like a mid-game 1v1 threat as a weapon laner. Since they gave the slow over to the weapon power path and took it away from the crystal power path. There was a Gwen on my team earlier today while I was playing 5v5 who just kept split pushing by herself, and the enemies would go to kill her and she would just kill them one by one and we won the game. So weapon Gwen is definitely a lot stronger now.
Yeah, I think Aces High, the range is increased, which again, team fights are going to be, I feel like for the most part, more spread out and more stuff happening. So like 12 to 18, though, I feel like that is a ginormous range increase.
That is a really long range increase. And I think it's really good because it just gives Gwen more potential to be a skill shot hero. It just gives like all of these skill shot range increases just give you more opportunities to make really awesome plays.
And now on the Halcyon Fold, you're going to be able to throw a Aces High from one base to the next.
Yeah.
Ooh, Idris. Okay, here's your boy. Let's see. Weapon power. I guess weapon power is what you mentioned. Is Crystal going to be around as much, or do you think weapon power could be the more dominant currently in 5v5?
You said that about Gwen?
Oh, Idris. Sorry, I moved on to Idris.
Idris. I think both weapon and crystal power Idris are going to be very viable in 5v5. I haven't played crystal Idris yet, but on the PBE I did play against Fuji's crystal Idris, and he was very good on that. So they just gave a lot of quality of life changes to crystal Idris, like more ratio on his basic attack, or less ratio on his basic attack actually, and more base damage, I believe. And then more crystal ratio on the chakram, which is something that crystal Idris players have wanted for a long time. And then Shimmer Strike is like the big change that I'm excited about for weapon power, Idris. They actually gave it a real weapon power ratio of 150%. So the thing with weapon power, Idris, is I was playing him today and I had like Star Blade, Breaking Point, Poison Shiv, and Tyrant's Monocle. You Shimmer Strike into the middle of the enemy team and you hit them all at the same time, and boom, you instantly have 20 Breaking Point stacks. It's really good. Like, you just Shimmer Strike in, hit everybody at the same time, and then Shroud Step to one person, and you just blow them up. So Weapon Idris is going to be so fun in 5v5. I can't wait to play him more.
That's what I'm trying tonight. I'm going to try that now.
It won't go as good as what Left has done, I promise.
No, probably not. I'm going to try it, though. All right, so next up we got Jewel, and from what I've looked at, it seems like maybe they're trying to decrease the crystal a little bit, but maybe increase the weapon ratio, especially on that Thunder Strike. They increased it, so I don't know if you have any opinions on Jewel, really.
My first 5v5 game was actually on CP Jewel earlier today.
How was it?
I won, but
No.
there was a weapon Jewel on the other team, and she killed me a lot because I would get caught out of position and she would just destroy me with basic attacks.
Mhm.
But when I succeeded in team fights as CP Jewel, it was because I had maxed my ult and I had a clockwork. So basically, I would be getting 2-3 ults in an extended fight.
God.
Wow.
And yeah, the damage per second decrease on CP Jewel is not really that noticeable, especially because she's going to be doing more damage to more heroes in 5v5. It's still really good for finishing people off, and if you're ahead, you can one-shot kill somebody with it still.
Right.
Nice.
All right, next hero, we got Kestrel, and I don't think we need to really say anything about Kestrel, just the basic attack range increased from 6 to 6.2, so Kestrel is already pretty set up for 5v5. Anything you want to say about that, Left?
Nope, nothing really about Kestrel.
All right.
All right, so Kashka, I think, is already emerging as a pretty important character / hero, whatever, in 5v5, just because of how fast she is. The clear speed could be interesting, but the one thing I was excited about is Pouncy or Twirly Death when Kashka uses Pouncy Fun, I guess, to jump in. Twirly Death, gains a barrier per enemy hero's hit for 1 second. So it was like Kashka was kind of an assassin, kind of a bruiser, and maybe needed a little more either defense or just more damage. And I think they went with definitely more defense to make maybe Kashka a little more tanky in the 5v5 scene.
Yeah, these Kashka changes, they kind of they hurt me because I really hate Kashka. Kashka meta is like the worst thing that can ever happen to me in Vainglory, because when I first joined the game, it was patch 1.5, and that was like the patch where draft didn't exist. So every game was Fortress Kashka Ringo versus Fortress Kashka Ringo.
Oh, yeah.
So I get flashbacks every time they buff Kashka.
You have nightmares.
But, yeah, aside from that, she's actually probably really viable as a laner. There were a lot of people playing top lane Kashka in PvE, and the barrier that you get from hitting Twirly Death makes her actually pretty sustainable in the lane, even against a ranged hero.
So I was going to ask this later, but I'm just going to do it now since I've kind of heard you low-key mention it a couple times. Are we going to see just not everyone, but pretty much a lot of heroes being viable as a laner if you played them correctly? Like, we're going to see just maybe a lot of unconventional, quote-unquote, if you look at 3v3 laners in 5v5?
Yes. Most everything is going to be viable as pretty much whatever you want if you do it correctly in 5v5.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see as we continue on. Maybe we can bring you back on in 2 weeks before 3.0 hits, or 3 weeks, and be like, all right, what's changed since we last talked? And you'd be like, yeah, everything's different. I think I'm up again. I don't remember. I'm just gonna do crawl. Okay, so let's see. Okay, showers empower me. His perk, his movement speed's increased. Basically, he's gonna be able to get around a lot faster. I guess the big thing in 5v5 is area of effect, or the damage is going to be important to do damage for multiple heroes, and Cruel only can focus on one. So I think that's kind of why they have a barrier increase. That way Cruel can survive longer in these team fights.
Yeah, so since there's 5 heroes in 5v5, it's kind of gonna refine Kroll's playstyle even more. He's gonna have to focus on. So usually in like the early game on 3v3, you would see Krolls playing really sneaky, trying to invade the enemy jungle, waiting for the enemy jungler to use their dashes so that he could catch him out of a bush and stuff like that. I think, and that would kind of wear off to the end of the game, and you would just basically be trying to hit your stun on the enemy carry so that your carry could kill the other carry. But I think since there's 5 heroes now, and Kroll is going to explode if he dives right into the middle of 5 heroes, it's going to really force him to play the way that he did early game on 3v3 throughout the entire 5v5 game. Just like not necessarily always with his team, hiding around in bushes, waiting to assassinate people and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely be interesting to see if Cruel still played as much as he was in 3v3, or how people actually kind of play him. Obviously, we saw a lot of lane Cruel coming out of a few teams throughout these smaller the tournaments that have been happening in 3v3. So we'll have to see if that continues in 5v5.
All right, next up we have Lance. So basically, I think he took kind of a bigger hit in this update. It seems to me like they're trying to get rid of a little bit more of that weapon power Lance and more focus on the captain Lance. His knockback with his Githian wall distance range increased from 3.8 to 4.2. His impale damage decreased quite a bit. So what's your opinions on this, Left?
What you said, it really looks like they're trying to tone down the whole weapon Lance thing.
Yep.
And focus on Captain Lance, especially because they increased the distance on Githian Wall's knockback. Because everything is more spread out. There's less walls that are very close to each other, and he might have to hit some people farther to achieve the same effect as he did in 3v3.
I'm sure some of those impales before they really nerfed them in 5v5 on the testing and stuff, if they got 5-man impales, it was probably pretty deadly. So they're probably like, we got to fix this.
Yeah.
Or people were just playing 6 spell sword Lance.
Yeah, that could be. Next up, we got Lorelei. Doesn't seem like a whole lot of changes to her. I don't know if you have anything you want to talk about Lorelei.
I'm just sad that they increased the cooldown on Water Wall, so I can't play with the legendary talent with an Echo and a Clockwork anymore in Blitz.
Yeah, that
had to have been nasty.
Probably crucial.
Yeah, other than that, nothing really too special for Lorelei.
All right, well, the next one is huge. I feel like I also have seen people crying and confused about this change. It is Lyra. Really, the big thing is, Imperial Sigil, the healing per second has been reduced. Not that big. Cooldown changed. It has gone up, I believe, or no, it's been changed down. But the bright bulwark is what I'm interested with. Lyra's bright bulwark no longer silences move abilities. It still stops move abilities, but only when crossing the bulwark radius. So explain this to me, or someone who's just like, what did I just read? Because I think I messed it up like 5 times. But how big of a change is this for Lyra?
I think it's really just another tuning 5v5 change. So how it used to work is if Taka got Bright Bulwarked while he was next to Lyra, he couldn't use Kaiten.
Yeah.
Now, the only way that Bright Bulwark stops a movement ability is if he's X-Retsuing, and then Lyra puts the Bulwark down before he gets there.
So it's like a gauntlet. You have to pass through it, basically.
You have to touch the edge to actually get your movement abilities snared.
Okay.
So if Alpha's right on top of you and you Bulwark, she can still Core Charge and Prime Directive.
Okay.
Yeah, so Bright Bulwark always had like a huge impact in 3v3. Since people were running like double melee comps with people that have different dashes and stuff like that. So in 5v5, if some team wants to run like 3 different melee heroes that all have dashes, Bright Bulwark is going to be like 10 times as effective. And that makes Lyra very broken, because she'll just buy an Echo and be able to negate your entire team's movement abilities instantly. So I guess they're transferring some of Bright Bulwark's power over to Lyra actually having to predict when people are going to use movement abilities instead of just using it reactively like she used to.
Yeah. I think it'll be an interesting change. I think people, if you go play 3v3 or in 3v3, it may be a bigger deal just because there's less heroes and stuff. But I think next we have Ozo. Not really too much, just base move speed is up. The travel speed increase of the Bangarang, cooldown reduce. I don't know. Have you been seeing any more Crystal or Weapon? I've actually seen both Weapon and Crystal Ozo.
I haven't actually seen an Ozo yet, but I can imagine he's going to be really powerful in 5v5 because of all of the AoE he provides, whether it's with Crystal or Weapon.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I got chased down. Like, I think I had 3 turrets down, and I got chased by an Ozo. I was a Vox. I tried to kite him, and he just kept following me. He had a breaking point and a Serpent's Mask, and I just could never kill him. It was sad. Petal's next. I have not seen a Petal yet in 5v5. A few changes. I feel like Petal was obviously strong in 3v3 if you didn't know how to play against her, but in 5v5, I'm not quite sure how Petal will do.
Yeah, I actually played against 2 Petals today, and I think the changes that they made to her make her pretty similar to what she was in 3v3. They gave her pets more health, which is good because in PBE they were instantly dying when somebody like blew on them. So yeah, she's still sort of the same as she was in 3v3. There was counterplay to her when I was playing against her, and a couple times I didn't kill the minions and she killed me. So yeah, I think she'll be okay.
Nice. All right. Next up, we got Finn. Nothing really here. Just a little bit of movement speed. So I'll just keep it going unless you want to say something about Finn left.
Nope, not really anything to say about Finn.
Yep. Rhyme. Nothing really to say about him. Movement speed was increased and range was increased. So my work here is done. Endless.
This is good.
I've done all I can say.
We're just now in the R's and we're at 47 minutes.
Nice. So, well, that sped us up a little bit. We can move on to Reza.
Reza, I saw a tweet that Reza would be really fun and really strong in 5v5. I'm not quite sure specifically why, but just because I really don't play Reza that much. So Left, I don't know if there's anything specific about Reza that you know.
Reza's mobility is going to allow him to make a lot more crazy plays in 5v5. I played on PBE a couple days ago against Fuji's Reza, and he just destroyed everybody using a cooldown build. He would have like 5 troublemakers in one fight, and it was just not good. They they increase his dash range just because the map is bigger and everything's more spread out. I think he's going to be pretty good as a jungler or maybe even as a top laner.
All right, Ringo next. Obviously really strong in 2.11. Crazy strong, as in just kind of dominating in most matches. Not always, but Spell Sword was really important in this. Now the Twilling Silver cooldown increased from 9 to 12. Basic attack speed, the bonus increased from all the way from like 65 up to 80 on when it's fully leveled. So, I mean, I think Ringo's still going to be viable in 5v5.
He'll still be viable in 5v5. I think they just wanted, with the Twirling Silver changes, to take a little bit of the power away from the people that were building Spell Sword. But like, if you still want that effect, Spell Sword still works. It's just not going to be quite as good anymore.
All right. Next up, we got Rona. They did do some changes with Rona. I was obviously most interested about the Red Mist with 5 players being chopped down, but they did a lot of changes to End of the Fray. I don't know if you want to talk about End of the Fray with those changes a little bit left, or
Into the Fray, it looks like they increased the cooldown, and she gets more fortified health, which makes sense because there will be more heroes. She gets longer duration on that fortified health, more damage, and a stronger slow. So that just looks like standard 5v5 tuning for Into the Fray. But Red Mist, that's more interesting. They had to increase the decrease the damage per second, which I think is a really good change because I've played against Arona today, and she just started spinning in the middle of like 4 people, and they all almost died instantly. Even though she didn't even have max blood rage, so it didn't last very long. But she did so much damage and instantly had 20 breaking point stacks. So these changes are just to compensate for there being more heroes on the map for her to spin.
Right. And yeah, next up we got Samuel, which is just a range increase, nothing there. So we can move on from Samuel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Endless.
He'll be fun in 5v5. The next person that I don't like to see in 5v5, just because the split pushing I think is going to be insane, is Saw. Suppressing fire, crystal ratios have increased, spin up, the move speed, penalty per stack decreased a little bit. So I mean, he's going to be able to move around a little better, but I still just think personally, I think his split pushing ability will be crazy.
Yeah, Saw is going to be very good at split pushing. Just overall, I think it's really good that they increased suppressing fire's crystal ratio because I really like playing Crystal Saw. I think he's really fun as a jungler or even a laner. I don't know, but they also they made him a little bit faster while he spun up, which I think is a welcome change since the map is so much bigger. If they would have kept that, he would have probably been even slower from point A to point B than Finn or Baron.
Yeah, so I think Saw will be a fun time, especially obviously you have the rivers to work with as well. So Saw maybe have a little more mobility if you play in mid lane. Next we have Scarf, obviously my favorite hero. I think the main thing that I get from this is that basically Goop was maybe too strong when it came to like pushing down turrets or towers, and they slow strength is reduced, the strength of the fire is reduced, crystal ratio reduced. Basically, the only thing that's been increased is the range. But really, the projectile speed of Spitfire has been up, so therefore you should hopefully be able to hit that more often. And really, I think Scarf's probably more focused on poke at this point.
Yeah, they really focused Scarf a little bit more on the poke, especially because they increased the range of Goop too.
Yeah.
There's been a play style with Scarf in older patches where you would just like build tank and then an Eve, and you would like just get into the thick of the fight and drop multiple Goop pools under yourself and never die. So I think they kind of wanted to eliminate that now that the map is a lot bigger and it's 5v5.
Right. All right. Next up, we got Sky. Mobility just seemed to be the biggest thing for Sky here with 5v5. Anything you want to talk about with Sky?
The cooldown on Surrey Strike is a lot longer now, which I think people that are like one-trick Skies are probably going to cry a lot about, but Sky's already really fast and really mobile. If they kept that in 5v5, she just would have been too much.
She could just dance around the fights, right? She already does that.
And basic attack increase, that's pretty standard. And the bonus lock-on range from Death from Above, I think that's more of an incentive to... Oh, wait, no. They decreased that, I think, at level 3. Never mind.
All right. Well, next up we got Taka. I don't know. They kind of said that, like much like Alpha, Taka needs his stacks to jungle. So it seems like to me they kind of changed his early game a little bit, and then like he's a little bit stronger with his earlier game, and then kind of falls off a little bit more late game. Is that correct, Left? Or what would you say about Taka?
I would say that's a fair analysis of Taka. He just becomes way harder to play once you get later into the game. Lots of times Taka players will go like 10-0 in the first 15 minutes, and at the end of the match they'll be 10-10.
That's me on every hero. No, I'm just kidding.
But the changes they made to Taka are really similar to the changes they made to Alpha. Much like Alpha, he needs his stacks to jungle, is what Nivmet said.
Yeah.
So, and I agree with him. And it looks like they reduced the crystal ratio on Exartsu, but increased the base damage. So I'm not actually sure if that's a nerf or a buff. I would have to do the math on that, but Taka's probably going to be a little bit more of a niche pick now because once you get to late game, his impact is going to be pretty diminished in a 5-on-5 fight.
Right.
Okay, well, we get to end on two of the most, I would say, strongest heroes. Varia, strongest in 2.11, and then Vox, I would say, I'm obviously predicting this early, strongest in 2.12. But Varia has been changed big time. Obviously, Chain Lightning no longer deals weapon. That's huge. Range reduced for the Stormforged Spear, the damage reduction on Arc Recursion altogether, basic attack range increase like a lot of people. So I think Varia has been changed a lot. I don't think it killed her, but I think it was a pretty important change.
Yeah, removing the chain lightning weapon damage was pretty crucial because weapon Varia was never supposed to be a thing that people did. They created Varia to be played with crystal power. So
Yeah.
it's like playing weapon Celeste if they gave Heliogenesis weapon ratio or something like that.
Yeah.
So never should have been a thing, honestly. And then a reduction on Stormforged Spear's range. I think that was really good because the reason why that felt so oppressive, the spear ability, whether it was in Blitz or in Ranked, was because there's not really anything else in the game that has that range on that low of a cooldown. So there's not really much that can compete with her once she gets her items at range.
So Vox is next. I played against a Crystal Vox in bottom lane when I was weapon power. It could just because I'm terrible, but he pretty much destroyed me. I thought it was extremely strong, and I'm excited just because I loved playing Crystal Vox back in the day. So, I mean, there's the range is increased, weapon power change has been decreased a little bit, but the overall crystal, I would say there's a crystal scaling now in basic attack. So there's just really, I would say, Crystal Vox is back by popular demand, as Nivmet says.
Yeah, I'm excited and scared about it because
Yeah.
I also Crystal Vox is my favorite Vox path, but also I'm wondering if it's a little bit too strong because I was playing it on the dev stream earlier today and it was so fun, but like I looked at Twitch chat while I was playing and everyone was saying like, "What have you done, Nivmet?" And yeah, I think Crystal Vox is going to be very fun. See, when I'm playing against Crystal Vox as like a weapon power hero in lane, what I like to do is just wait for me to not have any more minions before I try to poke him. Either that or just stay so far away from my minions that he can't bounce damage on me. But I think the biggest change is that his basic attacks now actually have a crystal component again. After they nerfed him, he was just completely unviable if he couldn't get like resonance on multiple people that were grouped up. And now that he can actually do some single target damage again, I'm really excited to play him.
Oh, it's a love-hate relationship for me currently. Once I play him and have a really good game on him, I have a feeling I'll be like, oh yeah, Crystal Fox is great. But when I play against him and get destroyed, it's not going to be fun. We finished. We finished all the heroes. It was insane. There's a lot of good and bad. We like when it comes to nerfs and buffs. Nivmet doesn't like the word nerf. He said that on the stream today. He was yelling at Playoff for calling it a nerf. But if we look at items balance changes, there's a lot of them. I don't want to like have you talk about each one. I would basically say all boots really have been, the total cost has been decreased. That way it's easier to get boots. Okay, one thing I do want to talk about real quick though. Okay, so all crit seems to have changed across the board. We see a change on Lucky Strike, Minion's Foot, Tornado Trigger, Tyrants. Do you want to talk about how the crits change and if that's like crucial?
So it looks like all crits have been reduced by 5 to 10% across the items, which I'm not really sure why they did that, to be honest. One thing that I've noticed though is that you get a lot more gold in 5v5. Like the game that I played on Samuel right before we started the podcast was I was like completely full build at 20 minutes. So if people were stacking crit items really quickly and they still had their old stats, that may have been a really big problem. People using really high crits to snowball games. So that may have been a reason why they reduced all the crit items.
Yeah, I think Tyrants has like weapon damage increase now from 60 to 80. Crits down, but it does more damage now when it comes to weapon. Other weapon power items, no crystal has been changed really. It's just really kind of the weapon pass. Spell sword changed a little bit. Cost increases up 100. Weapon power damage is reduced by 10. I think the big change I want you to dive more into, though, is going to be Storm Crown and especially Stormguard Banner. Speaking of returning things to its old form like Vox, I think Stormguard Banner is going to be huge for junglers in 5v5.
Yeah, the Stormguard banner changes I really like because it's going to allow people who want to, or people whose strategy it benefits, to actually like invest gold in being able to clear fast from level 1. Like if you want to have a utility jungler like Fortress rather than a damage jungler like Taka, then you start that Stormguard banner and it gives you a faster clear at level 1 so that you can like go do invades or push a lane or something like that. Whereas before it didn't really have that utility.
Yeah, I think they said, I forget who said it, but someone's like they think every jungler will start with a Stormguard banner. That way you can clear faster because clearing is going to be important, especially for the crystal junglers. Yeah, overall, not too many big changes for items, just small things on, minion candy, cost increase, crystal power reduction, though, on a clockwork. That is interesting. Not going to be able to do as much crystal power. Book of Eulogies, you mentioned that already once. You think that's going to be a pretty much, you should probably have that if you're in the lane?
Oh yeah, I've been buying Book of Eulogies on everything, even if I'm laning with a mage.
Okay. Got to stay healthy, I guess.
Mhm.
All right.
Well, obviously, I sell it after a little bit, but
Right.
Oh, that's probably what I've been going wrong in all my games.
Yeah, Endless keeps it the entire time.
JK. Okay. Yeah, so that's a lot. I hope everyone listening got a lot of information out of that. Obviously, Left plays with a lot of, I would say, top tier players, and he's one himself, so he gets to experience what the important things are. I know it's early Left, but any type of predictions when it comes to the strongest hero or who will be like the most fun to play in 5v5 if you haven't already found it?
Flicker.
Okay.
Oh, ooh, I didn't expect that, but I like it.
Have you played?
I think
Yeah, I don't know if you said that.
if they don't change something about Flicker, he's gonna be ban or pick once esports starts up again.
Nice. Someone having to focus on banning a flicker? That's going to be interesting. So speaking
Nice.
of everyone, quote unquote, being strong, will we see an increase of bans coming through when we get closer to esports or no?
What do you mean increase of bans?
Well, I've heard people talk about like, oh, we are getting closer to having another ban on each side. So
A
having
3-ban system?
I see. I don't really know. I know that League of Legends has like 5 bans on each side.
They also have like
something like that.
6,000 heroes.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't know. I don't think not having 3 bans would be the end of the world, but
Yeah.
it might also be a fun thing to do. Like maybe they could do that after they add 10 more heroes or something like that.
Yep.
I think we're getting close. I think 2018 will probably get there to have enough. I don't have a problem with there being so many heroes that are strong, that are allowed to play through. I just worry about some people. I'm not saying this is me again because I don't play at the top tier. Some people say that there's too many like quote unquote broken heroes that they can't ban because there's not enough bans for them. But again, we don't really know how 5v5 will play out, so I guess it'll be interesting to see.
Well, my thought is every quote unquote broken hero has a counter, and if that broken hero doesn't have a counter, they'll hotfix it.
Fair enough. I think my favorite thing is when people talk about a broken hero and then Nivit responds on Twitter and he's like, well, actually, if you do this and this, you can stop him and beat him. So, sorry, but he's not broken. Well, Crude, do you have anything else?
I do not. As always, appreciate Left coming on, though.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you've been streaming once again. You want to drop your stream, that way people can watch you play all these fun things you've been talking about on for 5v5?
Yeah, so my Twitch is just twitch.tv/LeftSpectrs, my IGN, and it's just LeftSpectrs VG. is my Twitch.
Yeah, I definitely love watching you play. It's entertaining, especially when I specifically was watching you. I think you'll remember you were playing a lane Saw, and you had a lovely Baptiste teammate that was trolling you all game, and you were like, you know
Oh
what?
yeah,
I'm done with you.
The thing is, I was actually I don't remember. I can't even remember if I was lane or jungle because wherever I would go, he was taking all of the farm. So
You
I
were
just didn't have
everything.
position anymore. Yeah.
I guess that may be not as important in 5v5 because there's going to be so much more ways to get gold.
Mhm.
But I think that's all we have for this episode. Thank you again for coming on. Obviously, we will bother you in the future if you ever have any more ideas and need another expert voice. But that's all we have for tonight's episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to Time for Rolling. If you liked what you heard, please leave a review on iTunes or Google Play Music and subscribe for weekly episodes. Follow us on Twitter at Time for Rolling and at TFR_esports. Until next week for another edition of
Time for rolling.